resident editor of The Hindu. The book will be launched by a gentleman who needs no introduction at JLF, Member of Parliament and author of 20 books, Shashi Tharoor. Please welcome our distinguished guest to the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to introduce a couple of very distinguished individuals whom you're going to get to meet. My honor this afternoon is just to launch the book. I'm not participating thereafter in the session. I have my own coming up on the front lawns at 3:45 on cricket. But this book is a remarkable work because it really is an autobiography that at the same time makes some very important points about healthcare in India and particularly about cancer treatment. So you read in Excellence Has No Borders about a young boy from a middle-class family in Karnataka who fulfills his childhood dream of going to the best medical college, gets a good degree, heads off to the States, finds himself doing very well materially there, but troubled about his inability to fulfill his other dream of actually serving humanity back in India. While still working there, he has a number of personal experiences he talks about, including a couple of family tragedies and challenges. He, meanwhile, establishes a hospital in Mangalore, in his native Karnataka, and then goes through a financial setback during the dot-com crash, picks up from there. He himself starts a company to promote oncology and the study of cancer as well as the treatment of cancer in Bangalore. And at the end of all of that, he comes back for good and establishes a major chain of hospitals that have made cancer treatment affordable for the poor of his native state. The story is compelling in its own self, and you're going to meet the man himself, Dr. Ajaikumar, but you also realize there are very many larger questions that many of us growing up in India confront. The personal choices, whether to translate our academic accomplishment into more comfortable lives in the Western world, with better material rewards, good salaries, fancy cars, or whether to somehow turn that into service to our society, or whether indeed we're better off doing the former first, establishing some material comforts, and then coming back to do the second. That's the path that both he and I have chosen in different ways, and I suppose each individual will have to make his or her own choice in confronting a dilemma like that. A second major theme is ultimately about cancer itself, the nature of the illness, the nature of treatment, the fact that in a country like ours, suffering from cancer can literally destroy a family. Imagine if a breadwinner is the person suffering from that dread disease. Not only will the individual no longer be able to earn the income the family needs, but sadly, very often, families unable to support the prohibitive cost of treatment will end up selling their assets, selling their land, sometimes selling their own homes, and ending up, at the end of it all, losing the breadwinner anyway, but then with all their assets depleted as well. An entire generation lost because of one illness. These are the kinds of human challenges we have to face, and the urgency of treating cancer, and particularly cancers affecting the poor, could not be more significant. Then comes the other question about healthcare in general in a country like ours. We spend a pathetically small percentage of our GDP on healthcare and on treatment. And now we are talking about creating credible insurance policies for the poor. But many of the best hospitals are unaffordable, including under those insurance schemes, whereas many of the hospitals the poor can have access to are frankly not very good. How do you bridge that gap? How has Dr. Ajaikumar done it? These are all questions, and there are many more that I'm sure Varghese George will ask. Varghese George is an eminent journalist, somebody whom I've seen as a diplomatic correspondent in the days when I was a minister in the External Affairs Ministry. I've admired his book on Indo-US relations a couple of years ago, and now Varghese is going to be questioning Dr. Ajaikumar on a totally different domain, that of healthcare, on what turns out to be Varghese K George's birthday. So let's all applaud him and wish him a happy birthday. So that's it from me. We're going to unveil the book and then I'll leave you to these two able hands. But do listen and do read. Thank you.
So first of all, congratulations, Doctor, for a fantastic book.
Thank you.
It is a privilege to be in conversation with you. What an inspiring story this is. Dr. Ajaikumar, he started perhaps life as most of us have through his hard work and struggle, public education, and then he becomes a medical doctor. After becoming a medical doctor, he lands up in the United States and creates a success that is not very common. Where does this title come from? Excellence has no borders. What does it mean?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I want to thank everyone and George, you and Mr. Tharoor. I just want to say last year I was here as a participant. To be here as an author is a great experience for me. Coming as a doctor, entrepreneur, now being an author, is such a rich experience. When I thought about my journey in India, abroad, the title has a lot of meaning behind it. When I look at somebody coming from middle class, at that time in 1970s, India was considered third world.
Right.
From third world, you go to US, immigrate, and go to one of the best oncology institutions, MD Anderson, become a well-trained doctor and be practicing in a place in Midwest, hardcore Midwest, where 100% Caucasian population, became very popular with patients coming from 100-mile radius. Clearly shows that wherever you come from, whatever, it is not the color, creed or caste. It is what you are. What you are really matters. So excellence really has no borders.
Right.
The talk we have today, should we be from advanced country or developing country and all, I think it disproves this point. And again, when you look at turnaround, when I decided to come back in early 2000 and said I will start high-end oncology centers across India, even tier 2, tier 3 cities, there were a lot of naysayers. They said India is a poor country. We cannot afford the technology. How is it possible? But again, I took it as a challenge to show nothing is impossible.
Right.
I think when you really...
So your hospital chain has now 26 centers in
26
India.
centers.
And you have centers in India and Africa?
Africa and Middle East.
Yeah, right.
And what we brought is the high technology, and there were a period of cobalt therapy.
Right.
Where all over the world cobalt was phased out. In India, we still did cobalt, very inferior treatment.
So we'll come to that. So the idea of excellence has no borders is a fact that if you have the commitment, perseverance,
Yes.
you can succeed wherever you are.
Absolutely. And this is not just true for healthcare.
Right.
It is true all over. That is what
Absolutely.
I believe.
So I'll fast forward a little bit. So in 2000 is when you come to India. So there is a backdrop to that decision that you make, that you come to India, you were making the decision in your mind.
Correct.
But something else happens that you describe in your book, which is that in the dot-com burst,
Correct.
you lose 20 million US dollars.
Yeah. So this was a dramatic moment for me when as you see in the first page of the book, I had everything planned. I left my practice. I convinced my family. Said, okay, at that time I had moved temporarily to Boston. I had bought a house, everything to spend part of the time. Suddenly the dot-com bust, if you see a graph, from $22 million, it came down to $500,000.
So that was on
happened.
One day, or
it happened. It felt like one day. It probably happened over a few months.
Okay.
But it was a shocker.
Right.
And that is like a game changer for me. When I said, should I really walk? I was on the ocean walking. I said, should I really keep walking, or should I turn back and face this challenge? That is when I turned back and said, I'll take it as a challenge, redo myself and see how to achieve my goals. As I said, nothing is impossible. And against all odds, I think it is quite possible to fight and come back and fulfill your dreams and wishes.
So, Doctor, your life in the US itself was not a common story for Indian American doctors. You write that you bought a ranch and you even had a horse, right?
No, I bought a ranch, but I couldn't get a horse for various reasons. But I had
all right, okay.
Yeah.
By the time you moved to Boston, you had sold that ranch? And
I had already moved out of the place where I was practicing. I had moved from nearly 21 years I was there, in place Burlington, where, I had a very successful practice.
Right.
And as I said, people came from 100 Mile, very popular. And obviously my parents, even my family, my brother, all said, you are a fool to get back to India when you have such a, thriving practice. And from 100 Mile, people came. What is the reason? But my goal was very simple. Like I always say in life, any complexities you have to simplify. Even treating cancer patients, you will look at my examples I've given in the book. It is to simplify and see how do we simplify and do the right thing at the right time. So I decided my simple way of looking, I had to get back. Right. There's a great unmet demand in India. I have to see how it can be done. Some of the examples I've given in the book is where kids waiting for 12, 14 hours to get even cobalt treatment. All of this had a great impact on me.
Right.
And really it kind of an internal compulsion for me to say, you have to come back.
So when you decided to come back, how did your family take it?
Fortunately, I had a wonderful family. Even though all of them were born in US, and my wife is also a US citizen.
Right.
I never, for various reasons, I never took US citizen. And when I came back, I even gave up my green card.
Right.
My family were very supportive of me. And they understood my compulsion, why I want to come back. And all along, transparency was important. I conveyed all along to my wife, my children, that my plan is someday to return to India and take on this, what looked like a big task of making a change in the way we approach and treat diseases like cancer.
Right. So in the book, you also detail, in some measure, your son, who is dealing with an ailment which is very difficult to treat.
Yeah. What really complicated was when my son was born in 1990, 3 years later, we came to know, I had all these plans making, that he has a disease called Duchenne muscular dystrophy.
Right.
It is a very debilitating, muscle wasting, and normally people don't live beyond 16 years. There is it's a genetic disorder where there is no treatment even today. But when I took this, when doctors in university told me, please accept your son is not going to live beyond 16, I decided I will accept, but I will fight. With that, I did a lot of work, not only my own research, supported University of Montreal, and we came up with some treatments where I'm happy to say, in spite of all the ups and downs, today he did his master's in psychology. He is 30 years old and living and doing very well. So it is really shows. Even recently, had an episode we had fractured. We thought again we may lose with what we call as adrenaline crisis. But he came out of it, pure determination, and what we did as a family together. We even maintained him at home because a lot of doctors do not know how to treat this disease in an emergency room and ICU because it's a rare disease. They go into this adrenaline crisis. So we managed an ICU at home. It has been published by British Medical Journal. Article has come where we brought him out, and he's like a normal kid, and he is a great inspiration for me. Even writing the book, actually, he did a lot of editing and really good. And I literally cry when I think about what a relationship and friendship we have.
Absolutely.
And even all of this, of course, my wife, my other children have contributed, my son-in-law, a lot to this. So it's kind of family, of course, matters a lot. And support is very important to do some of these things I have done.
So I think that is actually we could actually now move to the focus of this book, which is
Yes.
cancer treatment and oncology. So everybody has to die, but the realization that one has cancer actually brings death much closer to you, and you stare death in its face. And then actually at some point you decide that, okay, it is reality, but I will fight. Is that usually how a cancer patient takes that? Or
Yeah. In cancer, what has happened over the last several decades, from what was considered, the word cancer itself scares people.
Right.
And people use this word cancer for other things. Like cancer is such a...
Corruption is cancer of the
corruption
society.
is cancer of the
Everything, yes.
society.
Yeah.
This is cancer of the society. Cancer victim. So that has got a very negative connotation.
Right.
How do we overcome that? Is simple. Is cancer today, if properly treated for the right stage at the right time, is like a chronic disease like diabetes.
Right.
People don't get scared of diabetes, so is cancer. But because we didn't understand what is the disease and what it actually causes, so I have come across patients who came to me saying that, as you can see in the book, they are told terminal, but proper treatment, obviously when you're born, you have to die someday. But it is how you live, what is the quality of life, can you achieve your goals? I have given certain illustrations of patients who achieved their goals. Mm-hmm. And I always also learn from patients a lot.
Give us one story.
Yeah,
of
one
how...
story is a patient who I treated for 8 years. Mm-hmm. And she had extensive disease. She did all her ambitions in life. Mm-hmm. She wanted to travel, go to Ireland, everything. And then when she had extensive disease come back, blood pressure on a Sunday afternoon was 60/0. And usually when you make rounds, the patient families US go out. So I was there with her, holding her hand, literally in tears. I used to cry with the patient at the time. And the patient took a hanky, was about to die, and wiped my tears and said, "Doctor, please don't feel that way because I have lived a good life in the last 8 years." So when a patient consoles you, and see that what is the learning, that is what I call as onco-philosophy. Philosophers have written a lot of things, people preach philosophy, but through cancer patients, their behavior, their approach, how they look at life, when they laugh and smile and make jokes, even though they know they have only few months to live, they may know. It's a great learning for people who are healthcare providers and providers of care for these cancer patients. That has been a great learning curve for me.
So, Doctor, how do you tell somebody who is sitting in front of you that you have cancer?
I think it is an art by itself. I always say managing cancer patients is an art. Mm-hmm. It is not taught in medical schools.
Right.
So it is through understanding the psychology of the patient, the body language of the patient, and looking at the relatives who are there, what kind of support they are getting, and how do you say, in fact, one of the patients is actually here. Mm-hmm. She's an IAS officer and a doctor, right. And she gives her experience, how she was told that when she had the disease, her breast has to be removed. And there was no need to remove the breast. And she was really taken aback. So when she came to me and we started talking, the way we had a dialogue about it, there was actually no need to remove the whole breast. There's a lumpectomy was needed. And she is over 10, 12 years now living. She is in Delhi. She has come here for this meeting. So just to show that it is a way of approach, understanding the disease, knowledge, and how do you convey is what. And be truthful to the patient. The most important thing is you have to be truthful, but say it the right way, so the patient actually the family become part of the team, part of the management. And you have to treat the patient as though they are your own sister, brother, or mother, and not as a cancer patient.
Right.
And that makes a huge difference,
So all cancers have a general character, or each cancer is separate? And
no, when we look at oncology, cancer is very complex. It is an enigma. And that is what I have tried to show in the book. It is how you understand disease based on genomics. For example, there may be people who smoke here. We know smoking is bad, but all smokers don't get cancer.
Right.
Why is it? Why only some smokers get? Obviously, there is a genetic preponderance which exposes when you smoke over the years. So this is a journey we are understanding this disease. So today we are very happy to say that with the genomics, with so much knowledge, actually cancer patients are living longer than ever before. And also with some of the initiatives people have taken, we ourselves have taken initiative on smoking. We have filed a case about smoking. Why not we ban smoking? With all that, we have a case before the Supreme Court. All of that shows if you avoid smoking, actually cancer can be prevented a lot of times.
Right.
And other issues, environmental issues.
But for each patient, you have an individual protocol of treatment?
Based on their stage, based on their disease, based on the way they present, what we call as predictive analysis. Based on that, you create a protocol for that patient where the outcome is likely to be better compared to those who are not on protocol.
So how you write about how genome science actually is helping better understanding and cure. Can you explain how is this?
Yeah, in the past, we tend to treat patients based on some protocols, what we call as clinical trials.
Right.
1,000 patients are on the trial, 500 do well, so let us treat the 500 in that way. But what about the other 500 who don't respond?
Right.
The issue has always been what is the expense, what are the things going on with it. So all of this today with precision medicine, we are able to personalize care. So we are able to say based on genomics, these are the genetic. For example, there is a test called BRCA test through which we can actually say whether the patient is likely to get breast cancer. So you can take a lot of preventive measures.
Right.
One of the important message is cancer is a lifestyle disease. Obesity is actually the number one cause of cancer.
Okay.
So we need to understand cancer. There is an interrelationship between cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, all are related to lifestyle.
Right.
So once the lifestyle changes, the possibility of cancer, not only incidence coming down, but even patients with cancer are likely to do better.
So the conventional approach of cancer treatment, if I would understand correctly, is that you carpet bomb, which will also damage cells that are healthy. Is that?
No.
Conventional approach.
Conventional approach.
So how has it changed? Now it is you can specifically target only that part of your body, only those specific cells.
Correct.
Those are cancerous. Is
So,
that right?
Conventionally, suppose you give chemotherapy or a lot radiation or massive surgeries were done.
Right.
Today, we do everything is targeted. What we call as targeted therapy, biotherapy, immunotherapy. Now, one of the key now is immunotherapy where we make your own body fight against cancer.
Right.
Your own body defense cells attack and kill the cancer cells. So these are the amazing developments which are happening, which are very much technology oriented, research oriented. And what I am happy to say is today in India we can be sitting here in one of the major cities and say our treatment is equal or better than these treatments which are done because we have that knowledge and capability. And we can very proudly say that.
So this very focused, specific targeting of cancer cells, is it possible in surgery also compared to now?
Absolutely. Today there is a concept of robotic surgery where using robot we are able to identify which area we should treat.
Right.
So what happens in surgery, you don't want to assault the normal tissue. So in here targeted, you go to the right area and remove that.
Right.
So these are all the amazing work which is going on. So innovation has become very important where technology and cancer, the medicine are merging together. So a lot of startups we encourage actually in HCG to see that our own intellectual data is used, taking care, using the data to analyze and see what may be the best treatment for Indian population.
Right.
See, until now, we have been using Caucasian protocol. We really don't know what does the Indian population require, and that is where we are headed now.
So, when does that involve doctors having to learn some robotics as well?
Yeah, absolutely. They have to go through training for that.
So you have a business model which you write in this book that fits the Indian market. So you say that there is a balance to be reached between the price and outcome. Can you say a little bit about that?
Today when we look at healthcare in India, there are a lot of media reports, politicians, populistic things saying that private healthcare is predominant in India, nearly 75 to 80%. People are charging a lot. But when you look at the cost versus benefit, I can proudly say India today, major centers, one of the best for value-based medicine. What that means is, which was done by Harvard, a study for us, a case study. Harvard review was also done. In fact, Harvard called us as the Robin Hoods of India because of the cross-subsidy we do. Right. What that means, a patient coming to India for treatment, let us say breast cancer, they showed the cost may be about $3,000. Same treatment in US is about $40,000. But the outcome is the same. So when you measure a 5-year survival of this patient, the same. So that is called value-based medicine. Cost versus benefit. And I'm very happy to report India today is globally recognized as the value-based medicine leader in the world. That is why we get patients from all over the African countries, Middle East, coming to India. It is called, people use the word medical tourism. I use the word medical destination. So when people look and say, where should I go? People who are going to Europe or US now land in India because of this value-based medicine. And we have repeatedly shown through international, like IFC, World Bank has shown, today HCG care is better than NHS of England. The outcome and in cancer care, better quality of care. What more? But unfortunately, taking a little bit of a view, India always wants external people to appreciate rather than internally appreciate. Even that is one of the major problems of this country. You do phenomenal work, you always say, but you want New York Times to recognize you or Economist to recognize you before you are internally recognized. That is one of the issues we face all along in this country.
So though excellence has no borders, I think appreciation has borders.
Appreciation has, absolutely.
Right.
And it should change. It should be a change, and we hope one day, youngsters here who are there will take pride in ourselves. We don't have to look for elsewhere. There is internally we are very talented. What I am trying to show in this book is very clearly Indians have gone abroad. We run Microsoft, we run Google, we run MasterCard, we run Pepsi, and wherever you go, you find Indian scientists in the labs. Wherever you go in Europe and US, you find Indian scientists leaders. Harvard schools have Indian professors. So we are intellectually great. We have great IQs. We can conquer the world. But whatever reason, we have gone into a slum. I think it is high time we recognize the talent and wealth we have within us, and the ecosystem has to be provided. What is lacking today is, unfortunately, political system and others doesn't give us that ecosystem. Right. And that is, once it comes, we can explode. And I have said here that we can definitely be an advanced country. There is no need for us to be called an emerging market. Right. We have that capabilities. I hope we can very soon achieve that.
Right. So I will ask you one or two questions, and the last 7-8 minutes we will open it up for the audience. I'm sure there will be many questions that all of you may have. So let me go back to how the Harvard study described your business model. It was characterized as a Robin Hood model of healthcare, where you charge people who can pay at a higher level, but you have a policy that no patient goes back untreated because
the simple policy we did was no patient should be sent home whether they are poor or rich. And the second policy was everybody should get the same type of treatment. There should be no discrimination because somebody is poor. But how do you create the model? The model has to be cross-subsidy.
Right.
As we know in India, people pay cash, and we can discuss that point also.
Right.
But when people are paying out of pocket, things can be expensive.
Right.
Articles are written where somebody sold their house, farms, and all that. But all of it is preventable. But while we are working on that, I think the important thing is cross-subsidy is the key. An institution like us have perfected that. And that is why we are able to get this great outcome. Otherwise, it's not possible to get outcome.
So even for your highest paying patients, that cost is lower than the
Absolutely.
normal private.
That is the normal cost.
Normal cost.
Normal cost.
It is lower than the usual private
Yes,
sector
yes,
pricing
yes.
here. So at that kind of a business model, how do you attract doctors? Do you go around and poach doctors from other
See,
hospitals?
our doctors, some of the doctors are actually sitting here. I
Right.
can proudly say, our doctors we attract in SCG come with a passion. They not only want some financial remuneration, they want research,
Right.
academic. We publish one of the largest papers in the country today. Abroad, we do all over the world. So they look at some involvement where it provides them professional satisfaction. Those who are commercial purely obviously don't come to us, and we also don't want them. So we have nearly 450 oncologists in our group. So our attrition rate is less than 5%. Even though our salary, our structure is far lower. Because we attract the real talent, real people, real caring doctors, why they took up this profession.
Right.
And that is the most important thing today for doctors. To take the profession like oncology, you have to have that passion and involvement. Otherwise, you won't get that outcome.
Right. So anybody wants to ask a question here? Anyone? Here. The fourth row from the...
Thank you so much for your speech here. Sir, I have also come back from the US. I did my MBA there, worked there. Sorry. I also came back from the US, worked there, did my MBA there, and now I'm looking to pursue social entrepreneurship in the renewable energy space. So could you highlight some of the initial challenges you faced and what kind of mentality did you form to kind of overcome those challenges as you laid out your business?
I think my simple philosophy has been, when somebody says no, not possible, you say, I will make it possible. I think it is as simple as that. Nothing is impossible. I have gone through a lot of tribulation, even to get land. I had to fight. Corruption was evident there, even maybe now. Nothing could go. I ran my Mysore hospital for 1 year because the electricity board wanted me to bribe 75,000 to turn on. I said, no, I ran on a generator. Finally, they got exhausted and brought the crystal. So throughout the history, I have created a movement to fight against this kind of things. And I have succeeded because with determination. So people who say, I have a lot of friends who come from US, oh, India, land of corruption, land of nepotism, land of this, I can't really survive, when they go back. I think it is nonsense. If you're determined, if you want to achieve, you can. But it is hard work. It is not simple. People who are used to US, obviously they find it is, you in US may be simple because you're more welcome. If I had this kind of network in US, it is a different story, how welcome. But you don't look for rewards. Like in the morning we heard, somebody talking about Gita. You should never look for rewards. You do what is right and move on. And that should be the philosophy for you to achieve your goals and be a successful entrepreneur.
So, and then the third row from here. No, sir, after the lady there.
My question is for the doctor. So, doctor, I'm an actively involved hospice and palliative care volunteer back in the U.S. where I'm from. And I wanted to ask you, in the oncology space, I'm sure day to day you deal with a lot of terminal cases. How do you bring up the subject of referring your patients to, hospice and palliative care? And how is it as a field now in India, in the medical field?
In the US, obviously, hospice plays an important role. But in India, it is a different story. What I found, what I've learned. In fact, I was hospice director in US. But coming back to India, there is such enormous family support. And people, relatives, their joint families there. We find doing things at home is much more acceptable. So even in Mysore, actually, we opened a hospice block. And we had to close it because people said, I don't want to be in the death ward. I would rather go home. Even though we had a lot of things available, pain management. So today we are now more and more home care. We try to use the technology to monitor them and see whether we can provide relief. And this has been very accepted. And people go through this process in a very acceptable way. I think that is the future for cancer care. Obviously, we have to treat cancer the right way when they have pain and treating. My philosophy has been to treat cancer right. So actually the pain will be less if you identify through molecular imaging and high-end like cyberknife therapy and all. We can pinpoint and treat the painful areas even in advanced cases so they don't suffer pain. That has been one of my mission, to see how to see that pain control happens and good quality of life comes.
So we'll take the last question here. Brief. We have only 2 minutes.
I'm Sharma. I'm a retired banker. My question may be funny, but it has relevance in Indian context. Say, I saw a movie in 1971. The name of movie is Anand.
A question, very sharp. 30 seconds, you have 3 minutes. You have 1 minute, I have a question also.
Doctor attending the cancer patient, he had a model of treatment. He was charging more from the patients who were able to pay more for the treatment. And he was charging less from those patients who were unable to pay that higher amount. So do you have that kind of model?
One second.
That
so
is
I
exactly
think that
what
has been
I
explained.
described,
He
the cross-subsidy
the
model.
entire session we described. So final question I will take actually. What is a happy day in an oncologist's life?
Happy day is when you see a patient who comes with maybe usually advanced disease with lot of pain and says next few days later, I don't have any pain, walks to you with a big smile. I always say, you have made my day. That is because I deal with advanced and recurrent tumors. My clinic on Tuesdays is advanced and recurrent. What others say they can't do, my whole life has been challenged. I take it up and see what can I do for you, as long as patients, family cooperate. So when a patient comes of this, told you are terminal, and comes and I remember a patient family telling me, doctor, we are thankful. Every day we eat dinner with her. I remember that one more day with her. So this is what life is about. This is what gives us happiness when we see this kind of quality of life, pain-free. Those who are not supposed to live are living and saying that they want to be there for their son's wedding. People come to me. I remember a patient coming from Ranchi with a son and grandson. Can you save my son for 6 months? Because my grandson is getting wedding. We worked overnight, blocked all the arteries and made him live for the son's wedding. And he wrote a nice rate. I made it through my son's wedding. And that is what happiness, that is what a life is about.
So we have 1 more minute. I think I'll take 1 more question. Somebody here. Yes, you were. Ma'am, where is a mic? Ma'am.
Hello. Really inspiring talk, sir. So question is that do you have any general tips which people should, lifestyle choices which people can make to avoid getting this dreaded disease?
Yeah, general tips, as I told you, is a lifestyle disease. The most important thing is your diet. Looking at obesity, I told you, is the number 1 cause. Obesity doesn't mean you have to be fat. Obesity has genes. Even if you're skinny, you may get, so you have to identify your body. Some people eat whatever they want, they never become obese. But some people eat little amount, they say they're putting on weight, they control through that. So the important thing is know yourself. As they say, know thyself. Understand your body. Accordingly work on it. Like I'm a marathon runner. I run because I know I tend to put on weight. I've done 7 marathons. And lifestyle is very important. How do you manage your lifestyle? And of course, smoking, eating habits, herbicides, pesticides. That doesn't prevent you from having cancer, but definitely it lessens the chance of incidence of developing cancer.
So we stop there. Thank you, Dr. Ajaikumar.
Thank you very
Congratulations
much,
and all the best wishes for your...
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for being a wonderful audience.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Dr. Ajaikumar and to Varghese K George for that wonderful session. Just a couple of questions. Dr. Ajaikumar will be signing books at the book signing tent, right over there. Also, I know some of you came here and wanted to have books signed by Shashi Tharoor. He will be signing books after his session at the front lawn. That ends at 4:45. So if you're still looking to get your book signed by him, you can do that then. Another quick announcement. There was supposed to be a session right now at Charbagh, The Anarchy, with William Dalrymple. That session had now been moved to 11:15 a.m. tomorrow in the front lawn. So The Anarchy will be tomorrow at 11:15 a.m. Please make sure that you take any garbage that you might have, anything that's littering the space. Please take it with you when you leave the venue. We still have a couple of days to go, and we need to keep the venue clean. Thank you all so much for attending.
Shwas kich kich vamano brahmandaran point chokum hikis takha bandi kyo hukus pukus televan sukus mohabbat tukludum dekh shwas kich kich vamano brahman